going to be looking at Matthew 27. Matthew 27. Matthew chapter 27. Matthew 27. We're going to start at let's start at verse 33. 33, and we're going to read down to 43. 33 down to 43. You can follow along as I lead. Matthew 27:33. And when they were come unto a place called Golgotha, that is to say, a place of the skull, they gave him vinegar to drink mingled with gall. And when he had tasted thereof, he would not drink. And they crucified him, and parted his garments, casting lots, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by the prophet. They parted my garments among them, and upon my vesture did they cast lots. And sitting down, they watched him there, and set up over his head his accusation written, This is Jesus, the King of the Jews. Then were there 2 thieves crucified with him, one on the right hand and another on the left. And they that passed by reviled him, wagging their heads, and saying, Thou that destroyest the temple and builded it in 3 days, save thyself. If thou be the Son of God, come down from the cross. Likewise also the chief priests, mocking him with the scribes and elders, said, He saved others, himself he cannot save. If he be the King of Israel, let him now come down from the cross, and we will believe him. He trusted in God, let him deliver him now, if he will have him. For he said, I am the Son of God. We conclude our reading in verse 43. The concentration is going to be 39 to 43. Let me read that again. And they that passed by reviled him, wagging their heads. I keep on saying, I feel like Elmer Fudd sometimes talking. Wagging their heads, and saying, Thou that destroyest the temple and buildest it in 3 days, save thyself. If thou be the Son of God, come down from the cross. Likewise also the chief priests, mocking him with the scribes and elders, said, He saved others, himself he cannot save. If he be the King of Israel, let him now come down from the cross, and we will believe him. He trusted in God, let him deliver him now, if he will have him. For he said, I am the Son of God. I can't recall if I've ever heard a message preached on this passage, which I'm going to do today. And I'm probably not going to do it justice, but I would like us to look at this. It's a very interesting passage that we're going to look at. And there's some points I want to bring out from this. But I mean, I've mentioned to you guys before about grabbing one of those daily Bible readings and doing your Bible reading. And it's a blessing. I personally, trust me, it is a blessing. I've got a brand new Bible up here that I'm using. And I said, you know what? I'm going to use that Bible for my Bible reading this year. And I'm just marking that thing up. I'm writing notes in the margin, and I'm just having a great old time. But I started in Genesis, and that was last week when we looked at Abraham and Isaac, and the story that's there, and just how it was a personal blessing. And so from Genesis, then I wanted to read from the New Testament, so I went in Matthew, and I went through Matthew, and now I'm back in the Old Testament, in Exodus, and today I just read about the Passover, and the blood on the posts, the doorposts, and the headboard, and was reading about that, excited about that. But I said, well, I can't do that just yet. I gotta back up and do the one that I have from Matthew. So I'm going to bring that today. But it's interesting when we look at this. Like I said, I don't recall ever hearing a message on this. But what I want to bring out today is the religious leaders and their mocking of Jesus And look at what they say. Now, like I said, this is not going to be a typical message like I bring. It was kind of hard to outline this, so just kind of bear with me on this. But I have some points that I want to bring out concerning these verses. So I want you to look at verse 40. And it says in 39, and they that passed by reviled him, wagging their heads, and saying, Thou that destroyest the temple and buildest it in 3 days, save thyself. If thou be the Son of God, come down from the cross. And looking at this accusation that they gave him goes all the way back, well, not all the way, just actually a page back, but look at chapter 26 and 61. Chapter 26 and 61. This is where it started. Remember the kangaroo court, when they wanted to destroy Jesus, and they had that mock trial where they brought him there, and it says that they were trying to bring all these false witnesses to testify against him. They could not find anyone. And it says in 61, verse 60 says, But found none. Yea, though many false witnesses came, yet found they none. At the last came 2 false witnesses, and said, This fellow said, I am able to destroy the temple of God and to build it in 3 days. And of course, then the chief priest gets up and says, Oh, look at this. Look at what he's saying here. This is blasphemy, this, that, and the other thing. And it's saying all these different things. But this accusation that they give her in 27 goes back to that. And they're using that against the Lord. And you know what amazes me? You know, you talk about the frontier days, and this is horrible. But there used to be people that would turn out for hangings and stuff like that. People would actually gather to watch these things. Of course, it's the day before television and everything, but what a horrible thing to do, just to gather together to watch somebody die. And yet you look at this, and look what it says here. It says in 36, and sitting down, they watched him there. No compassion, none whatsoever. They watched him. Let's make sure that this follows through. Let's make sure this fellow dies. And they watched him there. And if that wasn't enough, they're bringing accusations against him. They didn't do that to the thieves on either side. These men stole from people. They didn't give them any accusations, but they sure were blaming Jesus. And look at what it says here. It says, oh, well, this fellow, he said he was going to destroy the temple and build it in 3 days. For one thing, there's nothing wrong with that statement that Jesus made. He's not the one that destroyed the temple. He was telling it was going to happen, but he didn't physically do it. Why would you even bring that up? So what if he said that? Anyone could say whatever they wanted, but you got to point out that one thing. Jesus did not physically destroy that temple. Furthermore, I want you to look at John chapter 2. Furthermore, the statement that Jesus made was in reference to his physical body. It was not in reference to the physical temple. It was in reference to his body. John chapter 2. John chapter 2, I want you to look at this. Verse 19 to 21. Jesus answered and said unto them, Destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up. Then said the Jews, 46 years was this temple in building, and wilt thou rear it up in 3 days? But he spake of the temple of his body. They didn't get it. Why? Because they had to discount everything he said. You know, the Bible tells us that, and this is horrible too, but there were instances where it would say that the Lord silenced the Sadducees. So the Pharisees said, well, let's give it a try. Let's go see if we can't trip them up. And over again, you read in Scripture that they were trying to trip up Jesus. We read that incident where the religious leaders said to Peter, oh, does your master tithe? And he says, yeah, sure he does. And he goes his way, and Jesus caught Peter. He said, look, so we don't offend anyone, go down to the water, and the first fish you get, there's a piece of money in there, put it in there for you and me. But they were constantly at his heels, trying to discount everything he stood for. Why? Because they saw in him somebody that was going to make them low, expose them, and ruin their ministry. And they were so jealous of them. Matter of fact, I don't think I have it written down in here, but Pilate noticed that. He said he realized that they were doing this because of their jealousy. That's why they were bringing Jesus, because they were jealous. Folks, think about that. Jealousy is sin. Do you see how far jealousy can go? Think about Cain and Abel. Jealousy. Cain was envious of Abel, and what did he do? He killed him. All because of jealousy. Folks, don't ever discount sin. I don't care if it's what you want to call a little white lie. It is still a lie in God's sight. It should be in ours too. Don't discount sin, because every one of our filthy, rotten sins sent Christ to the cross. Don't ever discount sin, and don't ever play with sin. Don't ever do that, because for jealousy's sake, they were seeking to crucify Jesus. For jealousy's sake, Cain rose up and slew his brother. Jealousy is indeed a sin, and it's a horrible, horrible sin. So they said, thou that destroys the temple and buildest it in 3 days. So we look at that. Look at the next one. The next one in Matthew 27. The next one that's mentioned here. Along with that, they said, thou that destroyest the temple and buildest it in 3 days. Keep this in mind also. Look over at Matthew 27, verse 63. After the crucifixion had taken place, notice this, 63. They come before Pilate, and what do they say? Saying, sir, we remember that deceiver said, while he was yet alive, after 3 days I will rise again. So they wanted to make sure that the sepulcher was secure. But notice, they remembered some of the things he said, didn't they? They might have discounted him. They might have mocked him. They might have reviled him. But some of the things that he said took effect on them, and they listened. So look at that. They said that there. We remember that deceiver said, after 3 days, he will rise again. And folks, that statement of Jesus was perfectly fulfilled. Look at Matthew 28:6. 28:6. We know that the women come to the sepulcher. The angel moves the stone away. And verse 6 says, he says to the women, he is not here, for he is risen. As he said, come see the place where the Lord lay. Look at that. Come see where he was. He is no longer there. He rose again as he promised he would do. Why? Because he's the very Son of God. The very Son of God. The next one, again in chapter 27. Notice this. This has amazed me over and over again. Matthew 27:42. Look at what is said here. 41 says that they, 40 says that they reviled him, then they mocked him. And then it says the chief priests mocking him with the scribes and elders said, he saved others, himself he cannot save. If he be the King of Israel, let him come now down from the cross and we will believe him. Now notice that. Notice that. Get this. He saved others, himself he cannot save. What is going on here? Without them even realizing what they are saying, they are giving credence to Jesus' ministry. That he did what he said he would do. So there was a slip of the tongue there. Without them even realizing what they were doing, they were giving credence to Jesus' ministry. He saved others, himself he cannot save. Oops, should have said that. Did anyone hear that? They were giving credence to what Jesus had done. And literally, he had done that. He saved others. Remember, Lazarus and the widow of Nain raised them both from the dead. Right? Jairus' daughter raised her from the dead. Yes, he is in the business of saving. To this day, he's in the business of saving. And so they discounted what he was saying throughout his life, and yet comes to the crucifixion, and here they slip of the tongue. They unknowingly, publicly acknowledged his ministry. Openly in the public, they acknowledge that, oh, you know what? He did do something, and then everybody's there to hear it. But I want you to notice this. They did it publicly, acknowledging Jesus' ministry, but also behind closed doors, they unknowingly, privately acknowledged his ministry. Look at John 11. John chapter 11. John chapter 11. And we know this story is being Lazarus being raised from the dead. John 11, look at verse 47. John 11:47. Lazarus is raised from the dead. 45 tells us, then many of the Jews which came to Mary and had seen the things which Jesus did believed on him. 46, but some of them went their way to the Pharisees and told them what things Jesus had done. They knew what was going on. How can you ignore something like that? Somebody is physically raised from the door dead. Can a mere man do that? No. This one they called a prophet was the very Son of God. So what happens? They were told that this has been done. 47, then gathered the chief priests and the Pharisees a council and said, what do we, for this man doeth many miracles. There was no discounting what Jesus did. No discounting it. And now they're faced with this. What are we going to do? We have got to shut this man down. He's ruining it for us. Goodness, the one that makes our phylacteries, they're going out of business. The one that makes our long garments, they're going out of business all because of this. Discounting him, and they had to do something about him. He saved others. Himself he cannot save. Publicly, unknowingly, they acknowledged Jesus' ministry. And then privately, unknowingly, they acknowledged Jesus' ministry. But back in our text again, the second part of that verse, he saved others, himself he cannot save. If he be the King of Israel, let him now come down from the cross, and we will believe in him. It's interesting. The first thing I think about when I look at that verse is the temptation of Jesus. Remember what the devil said? Brought him up to the high pinnacle of the temple and said, cast yourself down. People will believe in you. They'll believe in you. And they're doing the same thing here. Come down for the cross and we'll believe you. Well, I don't think that's the case, and we're going to look at that. Look at John 11 again. John chapter 11 again. We just looked at the fact that Lazarus is raised from the dead, and the council gets together, and they say, what are we going to do? This man is doing many miracles. We can't do that. But he's doing many miracles. What on earth are we going to do about this? It's interesting. They're saying at the crucifixion, come down from the cross and we'll believe you. Notice this. They're acknowledging Jesus' miracles, but still will not believe in him. Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead, and they still did not believe him. Do you really believe that if he came down from the cross that they would believe him? They didn't believe when somebody was physically raised from the dead. And yet they're saying, oh, well, come down from the cross, we'll believe you. Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so. And in fact, look at John chapter 12. John chapter 12. Well, look at verses 9 to 11. John chapter 12. They were so incensed against Jesus and doing away with him that they decided, we got to do something about this Lazarus fella. So look at 9 to 11. Much people of the Jews therefore knew that he was there, and they came not for Jesus' sake only, but that they might see Lazarus also, whom he raised from the dead. But the chief priests consulted that they might put Lazarus also to death. They're like, we can't have this. We got to do something with this fellow too. Jealousy. Jealousy. Look at the sin of jealousy. The blind rage. Talking about sins. What about the sin of unbelief? Every one of us have folks that we know that aren't believers right now because Satan has blinded their eyes. And our prayer needs to be, dear God, please open their eyes that they might see and believe. Because that's what it's all about, is having your eyes opened that you can believe on Jesus Christ. So, come down from the cross, we'll believe you. Yeah, all right. Lazarus was raised from the dead. They didn't believe him. And they're also thinking, you know what, we can't have people going and looking at him. All they're going to do is acknowledge what Jesus did. We got to get rid of him too. So not only do we got to kill Jesus, we got to kill Lazarus. Yeah, sure. Come off the cross and we'll believe you. Yeah. Pipe dreams. It's not going to happen. They spoke of killing Lazarus because many people were believing in Jesus. And what's more, let's think about this too. And when Jesus himself was risen from the dead, they did not believe either, did they? They had all that group. They paid people to go to the tomb, make sure it's secure. And when the angel came down, they were terrified and fled. And the stone was rolled away, and he came out, and what did they still have to do? Make up a lie. Hey, listen, we're going to pay you guys. You tell everyone that his disciples stole his body away. They still, faced with facts, would not believe. Would not believe. Folks, we were just talking about this morning, evolution. Used to be called the theory of evolution. Now it's pretty much just called evolution. A theory is an educated guess. An educated guess. And they used to say, well, it's an educated guess. We believe this. And now it's almost stated as fact. It's taught in schools as being a science. Again, the blindness of people. They just will not believe. Why? Because they realize if God is real, then they are accountable to somebody. And they don't want that. They don't want to be accountable to anybody. So they make up all these things. Same thing here. Oh, no, what? The tomb's empty? Well, his disciples stole him away. That's what happened. Faced with facts, they still will not believe. The evolutionary process is being discounted over and over and over again, and they simply will not believe. I was telling the Sunday school class this morning, there's an excellent DVD out there. If you're able to get and watch it, it's a blessing. I believe it's called God of Wonders. It could be Great God of Wonders, but it's called God of Wonders, I believe. That's in the title there. And it is nothing but praise to God. And you've got guys on there that are scientists, astrophysicists, and all these big brains that are believers explaining things clearly, how evolution just cannot be true, and giving facts. We got the snow coming down. I mentioned this. One guy mentions, he goes, there are no two snowflakes that are exactly alike. They're all different. And they showed some of them in the intricate design of them, but they're all different. They're all different. That's God. How is evolution going to be part of that? It's God. But the blindness, folks, please be praying for your relatives, praying for your family members, praying for coworkers, praying for friends. Their eyes need to be open to the truth. Think of how hard Satan is working out there. That means we need to be working even harder, because Satan doesn't ever take a day off. We can't either. Blindness, the blindness of their eyes. So Lazarus being raised from the dead. Yeah, come off the cross, we'll believe you. All right, well, Lazarus was raised from the dead. You don't believe. You spoke of killing him. Jesus Christ rose from the dead. You won't believe that. Sure, come down off the cross and we'll believe you. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Jesus himself rose from the dead, and they would not believe. Last thing, back in our passage, verse 43. 39 to 43 again. And they that passed by reviled him, wagging their heads, and saying, Thou that destroyest the temple and buildest it in 3 days, save thyself. If thou be the Son of God, come down from the cross. Likewise also the chief priests, mocking him with the scribes and elders, said, He saved others, himself he cannot save. If he be the King of Israel, Let him now come down from the cross, and we will believe him. 43. He trusted in God. Yeah, he's the Son of God. He trusted in God. Let him deliver him now. Well, he did. If he will have him. For he said, I am the Son of God. He said, notice this. They acknowledge that. They acknowledge that he said he is the Son of God. They acknowledge that he believed in his Father. He spoke openly about it. My Father has sent me. I am his Son. That's why they wanted to stone him. That's why many of the disciples wouldn't walk with him anymore. Hard sayings. He mentioned this publicly over and over again, and they're remembering these things. But, folks, remember, somebody can have a head knowledge of Jesus and the gospel and still be lost, because it's got to get to the heart. The Bible says, for with the heart man believeth unto righteousness. The heart is where it's at. Yes, it's wonderful to remember things and know things, but when it comes to salvation, it's got to come from the heart. It's got to believe there. I believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. That's what happened with Philip and the eunuch. Philip's talking to the eunuch. He says, hey, look, here's water. I want to be baptized. And he said, if you believe with all your heart. He didn't say his head. If you believe with all your heart. And he said, I believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. And then he was baptized. It must come from the heart, folks. Remember that. It's got to come from there. He said, I am the Son of God. Look at a few verses here. John 5. John chapter 5, verse 25. John 5:25. Jesus made this claim himself. But then we're going to look at some other ones. He said, I am the Son of God. Well, Jesus made that claim. John 5:25. Verily, verily, Jesus speaking, I say unto you, the hour is coming, and now is, when the dead shall hear the voice of the Son of God, and they that hear shall live. Look at John 11:4. John 11:4. Again, dealing with Lazarus. John 11 and verse 4. John 11, verse 4. When Jesus heard that Lazarus was sick, he said, this sickness is not unto death, but for the glory of God, that the Son of God might be glorified thereby. He made that claim. He claimed to be the Son of God. Well, you know what? He is the Son of God. He is. I want to look at some other statements that were made, because, folks, there were a lot of people that believed he was the Son of God. You're in John chapter 11, look at verse 27. Verse 27. Martha, what does she say? She saith unto him, Yea, Lord, I believe that thou art the Christ, the Son of God, which should come into the world. I believe that you are Christ. I'm putting all my faith in you. Look at our passage again, John 27. John 27:54. Those that were there at the cross. 54, what does it say? Now when the centurion and they that were with him watching Jesus saw the earthquake and those things that were done, they feared greatly. What about the religious leaders? There was no fear, because they would not believe. They feared greatly, saying, truly, this was the Son of God. Truly, this was, affirming that he was the Son of God. The disciples, in Matthew 14:33, the disciples said, of a truth, thou art the Son of God. Look at Mark 3. I want to look at two passages here. While we're turning there, Nathanael said in John 1:49, thou art the Son of God. Thou art the Son of God. But look at this, Mark chapter 3. in verse 11. Mark 3:11. Notice this. Notice this. Mark 3:11. And unclean spirits, when they saw him, fell down before him and cried, saying, Thou art the Son of God. The Bible tells us in James, the devils believe and tremble. How awful. And anyone should not believe. And think of those religious leaders that were so bent on believing their own rules and regulations and believing that they were the cat's meow and would not acknowledge Christ. And there was no fear there. There was no reverence there. And yet the very demons, the very devils said, Thou art the Son of God, and fell down before him, acknowledging that because they knew. And yet the religious leaders didn't care. Look at Luke chapter 4. Luke chapter 4. And then I'm going to mention one and we'll be done. Luke chapter 4 and verse 41. Here's another one. Luke 4:41. And devils also came out of many, crying out and saying, Thou art Christ, the Son of God. And he, rebuking them, suffered them not to speak, for they knew that he was Christ. They knew. They knew. And you've got these religious leaders that simply would not believe. They would not believe. John the Baptist said, This is the Son of God. Folks, there were many, many that believed on him. We've got a list of them right here. Folks that believed. He said he is the Son of God. Well, you know what? There's plenty of people to back that up. Why are you here today? Because you believe he is the Son of God. That's why you're here, because you believe and you have received. And yet these religious leaders mocked him, reviled him, and would not believe. Folks, we've got to be diligent in getting the gospel out to those that don't know, praying diligently that God would open their eyes, that they might believe. Every time the gospel's mentioned to them and they don't believe, their heart gets a little more and more hardened, and it's harder for them to believe each time. So we need to pray that those spiritual calluses will come off and that God and the gospel will reach through, that they might hear and believe, because it's important. Folks, there are people that they just simply will not believe. The religious leaders were that. They faced with all kinds of things, all kinds of miracles, and still would not believe. But we've got people today that don't even know what a church is, don't even know what the Bible is, because they're hearing things like this. Oh, well, out there, there's a book called The Bible for Dummies. Maybe that's the Bible. The Bible for people that don't know how to run computers. And that word is taken and used all the time. All the time. And people are being desensitized to what the truth is. And we need to pray diligently for them, that their eyes might be open, that they can behold the truth and get saved. We need to do that. We've got to be diligent in doing that.